Okay, hey guys, what's up? It's Sudo Pluto here, and I thought that since I got a new computer, I would show you guys how I set up my new Fedora installations. And now this is not specifically like only for Fedora. This can work for like any desktop Linux distribution, most desktop environments. It's just that some of the stuff here that I'm covering here is like Fedora specific and GNOME specific. So if you use like KDE and other distros, just kind of tweak what I'm doing with what your distro desktop environment has. But I would say the people that would get the most use out of this would be the people who are like me and they're setting up their new Fedora install. Okay, cool. So step number one is, and I'll give you a link to all these video notes in the description so you can follow along in case you don't want to listen to me talk. So first step is to set up your external repositories and to do a package and distribution upgrade. And so what does that look like? That looks like downloading all of your RPM Fusion repository files and installing them. So you would just literally download these RPMs and do like a sudo dnf install star.rpm, and that'll install the RPM Fusion repositories onto your machine. And actually going back to it, when you're doing initial setup, you will have the option to add some like sub-repositories of RPM Fusion, but this will give you the entire repositories as well as the package groups to enable codecs for video encoding, decoding, etc. So I would install those repository files, and I've already done that. I've done a lot of the steps over here, especially with the hardware enablement part, but I'll show you guys the rest. And I'll show you in my files that in my downloads, right, I literally just downloaded a couple of drivers, OBS, my profile pictures, and these two, right? So, and we'll get to this later, but basically I downloaded the RPMs, and then I ran out the terminal sudo dnf install star.rpm in that directory, and that installed RPM Fusion. And then so this is the one-liner that I use to upgrade my system from a RPM DNF standpoint. So it's sudo dnf up and sudo dnf group install Fedora workstation. And I made a video on this command, so you can check it out. I'll link it. But basically, what we're doing is we're upgrading the packages, and we're updating like our distribution to like whatever like meta package that they use. So basically, this updates all the packages that are currently installed, and this installs all the packages that the Fedora contributors use to define what Fedora is. And as I mentioned in that video, while you do this, is that especially when you're upgrading from Fedora version to Fedora version, they add like new default packages and they remove some old stuff. So it's good to run this command once in a while, so you're actually getting like true Fedora workstation. And in that video, I also showed you, like, for example, after I upgraded Fedora, I ran this command and I got all the pipewire codecs. I got some thermal D daemon as well, and I got some new fonts, and etc. etc. So it's a good command to run. And then after this, you want to update your firmware using sudo firmware update manager update. And after that, you can reboot. And then so there you have a fully up-to-date computer with Fedora packages and your firmware. And so the second thing that I do is I install drivers. And that's mostly NVIDIA drivers. There's not really that many drivers outside of that anymore that you need to install. I also made like a Fedora Wayland NVIDIA video, so I'll link that as well. But basically the gist of it is you want to install these packages. You want to add this option for suspend support on the NVIDIA proprietary drivers. Same thing here. This is for like suspend support. And then you want to install this. And I also made a video about that, so I'll link it. But it's basically how to add like Firefox hardware acceleration with NVIDIA drivers on Linux on Wayland. Yeah, cool. Actually update these notes to include all those links to my videos that cover them. And then another thing is if you have a dock like I do, you want to have the display link driver. So that's the other RPM that you saw in here. where you saw Fedora display link. And so I'll also share the link to that. I'll update the video notes and add a link to that. Oh, I already did. Yeah, no, I'll add the video guides for this and then this as well here. Okay, cool. So this one's where we start. So we want to set up Firefox. And as we can see here, what we want to do is we want to sign to Firefox, which I've already done. We want to set up hardware encoding, and which I've already done, and I'll show you that. And then we want to set up our fonts and then the new tab, because Fedora kind of annoyingly hijacks your new tab. And then I already have these plugins installed, but I'll add links to them. I'd highly recommend them. uBlock Origin is, I think I must put add-ons actually. Wow. Is a ad blocker, and then 1080p Netflix is how you can force 1080p Netflix content in Linux. So let's do that real quick. So here, and the first thing was the hardware acceleration. So you go to about.config. You accept the risk, and then you just search in ffmpeg. And then this is what will default to be false. You just click this little icon to toggle it, to make it to true, and then you reboot your browser, right? And then if you go into about support, I'll also add this in the notes. Support, you'll see that if you scroll down to here, hardware video decoding available by default, and then force enabled by user. And so you can verify that with various tools. There's Intel GPU Top. There's the NVIDIA driver manager. What's it called? NVIDIA X server settings. But from here you can see the GPU utilization. I'm using an AMD CPU, so I actually don't remember what that is. But it's easy to tell when you're using hardware acceleration for video on Fedora. On Firefox. And then so what you want to do here is settings. There's some general settings you want to do. So here for fonts, instead of the Noto, you want to go into this, and then you just want to set everything to Katana or Bell to match what Fedora's default fonts are, what GNOME's default fonts are. And then from here, I think it's Source Code Pro. So where is Source Code Pro? So yeah, you want to just change those to Cantarell, and then Source Code Pro. All these are fine. You hit OK. When you reboot Firefox, you'll see the change. And then I would keep this here. Play DRM, controlled content, extensions. Where's extensions? Here we go. So yeah, this one disabled, and then there used to be a Fedora specific one, but you don't need that. We go back into settings, and this is the other part that you want to do. This is to prevent the Firefox new page hijacking it. And so for homepage and new windows, you want to do about new tab. And so that way, when you do this, it'll just be the Firefox like start page and not the Fedora start page. And yeah, that's how you set up Firefox. Please do sign to like a Firefox account if you do have one. It allows you to sync everything, and definitely Firefox over Google Chrome, just because they have hardware acceleration working out of the box, and Firefox allows ad blocking, unlike Google Chrome in the future. Okay, cool. So we got Firefox set up, and then we want to set up GNOME, and so this is a big one. So I do have Steam installed. Where's Steam? So I do have some add-ons installed, and I also have GNOME tweaks and GNOME extensions installed. And so that allows me to really configure GNOME. And then I also have the Yarrow theme installed. And so this is how I like to do it. So first I do extensions, because those are easy. And so what we want to do is we want to do this app indicator and case status notifier item support. And so this basically, here you can see Steam now, right, running in the background. And I also disable this background logo because I don't want that. And then if I'm giving this this computer to like Windows users, I usually do this application menu one because that seems to be a big hit. And yeah, extensions are enabled. And so that's like this part, right? And then the next part is tweaks. And so for tweaks, we can run down appearance. I changed everything to Yaru. Yaru dark. Yaru dark. And then I changed these background images and stuff in the actual GNOME settings. I just used this to change the shell settings. For fonts, we can see we have the same fonts now that we did in Firefox. So source code and then Cantarell. Yeah, and then I also use subpixel anti-aliasing for slightly better fonts. Hinting slight, you can change this to whatever feels good. I feel like slight's good. Slight and subpixel. Keyboard and mouse, acceleration profile is flat. That makes the mouse a lot more even. If you're a gamer, you'll especially support that. Sorry, especially like that. Yeah, fingers, startup applications, none. Top bar, I like to enable the seconds here, and then the weekdays over here, and then the week number under here. Let's go back into tweaks. Title bar, everything's fine. Windows is everything's fine. And now we get into GNOME settings. So there's a lot of stuff you want to change here, right? So Wi-Fi, you don't have to change. Network, you have to change. Bluetooth, I would add your headphones now. Appearance, this is a big one. So I like to use the dark theme, which is nice. Before this used to be in GNOME Tweaks, but now it's here in the Style Manager. And then for background, you do add picture, and then I like this one. This is my background, and you can select it, right? And it should, by default, also use it for the lock screen. And you can check here under appearance. And see, both the lock screen and the background are set to my wolf picture. Notifications, I allow everything on. Search, this is where I disable this because that's really annoying. So now when I search for an application, right, it's only the application. You don't get the application subresults. That's really annoying with the characters one. That just annoys the heck out of me. So I just disabled everything like that. Multitasking, the defaults are fine. Applications, you don't need to change anything here. Privacy, all that's fine. It's like the portal stuff. Online accounts, I skip this, but a good one to have is Google, so you can get Google Drive support. And then I think Microsoft also has the OneDrive support now. And I actually haven't tested out the Fedora one, so I'll test that out because I do have a fast account. Sharing, I like this one. You can set your computer name here, so I'll set it to actually what this is, Pranav Desktop. And that'll basically change my host name. And you actually want to click this on. And so file sharing will basically set up a Samba share for you. Remote desktop is like VNC. This is a really big one. Media sharing, this will set up a DLNA server for you. And so I like to enable this one. And so that way I can like share like my videos and music all across my local Wi-Fi. And so this is a very good one to have. I like to set that up. Sound, you adjust all your sound stuff. A big one is system volume. Yes, I just mute this one. No, where's the alert volume? System sounds, I mute this one because I hate like the terminal noises that you make when you hit like the backspace button too much. Power, everything is here. These power settings are based off what you like. And then your power mode, obviously. If you're running a laptop, I would install TLP. I'll actually add that to my video notes, but that's outside the scope of this desktop-based one. Displays, you set up your display. I like night light. You just do the schedule that you want and the temperature. Mouse and touchpad. You can set your mouse speed here. That really works great with the flat profile, but you should probably do your DPI in your mouse settings first before you touch this one. Keyboard, nothing much besides the compose key. If you have those printers, you set that up. Color, that's fine. Region language, yes. Accessibility, yes. Users. Okay, so here's where you can add your profile picture. So this is where I'll add, select a file, downloads, and then I have this guy right here, right? And so I can add my avatar. Awesome. Now it's truly pseudo Pluto. Default applications, this is good. One is that in Firefox, I think you can register mail-to links as like a mail client. So I don't know why this is grayed out, but we'll look at it later. Date and time. I like to do this, automatic time zone too. And then time and date is AM PM because I'm a dirty American. And then in about, you can see the hardware model. This is my B550, memory, processor, graphics, all this good stuff. The device name you can rename here, which is good for setting the host name. Software updates, you can easily go into software updates from there. Cool, so our GNOME is pretty much set up basically now, right? Another tweak to do is unpin everything here, but that's a personal preference. And yeah, and that's just GNOME set up the way that I like it. But you can see like what you can get like a good idea of like what settings are good to tweak and what ones are not that great to tweak. GNOME terminal, this one's easy. So you do preferences, and then this is really dumb. I don't know why it's like this. So you can't really modify the default unnamed profile. So what I do is default, and boom, and then now suddenly profiles are enabled for your GNOME terminal. So now is when you can go into something like, can I do new window? Yeah. Now you can go install Go terminal, and then you can just install it. And then I think it's 33, which is clone of Ubuntu. As you can see, the default theme is like terrible to look at. So this is why I always do the color scheme and the font size. So clone of Ubuntu is 32. So you can enter in 32. And that'll set up a new profile. So you saw that preferences that we did. So now we have default and clone of Ubuntu. We can do this. We click this little arrow and then set to default, right? And then we can also change our font size. So I do custom font. And then here I just do source code pro, select, and I usually like a 16. That's like a good terminal size for me. And then from here we can exit. If we reload the terminal now, sorry, and then we should get a nice big, oh, I have to exit this guy too. Yeah, a nice big terminal with nice like contrasting colors. Get video notes, set up Fedora and cool. Yeah. So that's the GNOME terminal setup. Any desktop software. So this is a good one. The Flatpak remote add. I did the GUI way, as you can see with this Flatpak ref and Flatpak repo, but that just enables FlatHub, so you can install a lot of your applications through Flatpak. I would say that's like the preferred way to do it, to be honest. Besides, instead of like using like RPM Fusion or the Fedora repos, I prefer Flatpak. Just for stuff like Discord, which like only really works well under FlatHub. The OBS, the FlatHub is like the official package, so like plugins and stuff will work. The ones that I would not install through FlatHub are Google Chrome. Just sudo dnf install Google Chrome if you had it enabled during your additional repository setup. Steam, which should be in RPM Fusion. MPV, that's also not there. NeoVim, and then yeah. Config files, secret keys. Okay, so for SSH, basically, I have this jump drive that you should be able to see. This, right? So this basically has and as you can see, it's encrypted, but it basically has like a lot of my keys and stuff. And so I use that to copy over my keys to new machines, and that really makes things easier because you don't have to like make new keys for each machine and then add it to GitHub and have like multiple points of failures and stuff. So to do that, you just copy from your old computer the .ssh folder, and then you copy over everything into your new .ssh folder, and just run ssh add, and that should add all your keys that you populated into this .ssh folder into the ssh agent. Okay, config. I love having this. This is a config repo. We actually have it here. Config. Yeah, so what this config repo is like all my .files and stuff. So basically that means I have like my vim rc or initVim for neovim, I have my bash rc, I have my mpv config, git config, vsco, everything, right? All the config files I had to make is in a Git repository. And so when I have a new computer, I can just copy it over either from GitHub directly or from this config repository. And in the future, you can use like a manager like Stash to basically automate setting up and changing your .files. And so yeah, this is like the way to manage like your .files or config. Just have some directory where you can pull it instead of like having to have your computer off to the side and copy it over manually. Just have like a little repository of your .files or config files. So let's do that. A big one is bash rc. So need a and then we can do this. Yeah. And then so here are the big ones. So we can just do cp bash. Actually, we can do cp dot star into home, right? And then yeah, we don't need those. So now bash rc, git config, and vim rc are all in my home directory. For these, right, and initVim and mpv conf, those go in our config directories. And I don't have VS Code, so I won't be doing the setting.json right now. So basically all I need to do is, do we have mpv installed? So we need to install mpv. Okay. Okay, and then cp mpv conf into dot config, and then mpv into mpv.conf. Yeah, and then I forget what the cp is. It cp-p? I think it's cp-p. And then we'll also do one for neovim. I think it's nvim. And then the same for, and then we just use our init.vim. Cool, and then from there, as you can see, our bash rc loaded, right? So we can comment this stuff out for now. This is development tools that I self-install. Bash rc, and then and just get rid of all this stuff. But yeah, basically, if you want to copy my bash rc, there's nothing at all in it. All it is some alias. So we have aliases for neovim to vim, and that's it. We have some rbn vev and Vulkan stuff. Yeah, and then now if we want vim, I don't know, test.txt. I don't know, tab new, So now we can use our mouse to do it because I have mouse set A in my vim.conf. Init vim, sorry. Let's tell I'm very tired here. Get video notes, set up Fedora. Okay, cool. So now we set up our dot files. So and we installed all our applications. Yeah, all that's left now to do is missing dev libraries. And so for this one, I never really know how to like do it efficiently. All I do is if I like clone over a Git repository and it's not building, I just do the same like Google or like DNF SE to find out which libraries I'm missing, and then I just install it. And thankfully, I'm not setting up machines that often. Yeah, the first time that happens, right? That's kind of a pain in the butt. Especially if it's like graphic stuff, you have to like install like a bunch of like SDL packages and things like that. RBNVev, you saw that. That's what I use for Ruby. I think there's like PyNvev too for Python if you're doing some Python development. And then setting up Vulkan. That's another one that I ran into. The SDK guide for Vulkan is pretty solid. And then set up disks. It's not GNOME terminal, it's GNOME disks. But yeah, basically, I have this storage drive that I have like auto mounted. And then I have like my external drive that I use for storage, right? And then I have my boot drive as well. And so what you want to do is you can do settings. You can do this one here, settings, edit mount options, and then you can change from user session defaults to all these stuff, and it'll basically edit the etc fs tab for you. And so that way you don't have to like manually mount drives and stuff like that. Another thing is if you have like a NAS or anything, you can mount that as well. All you do is other locations, and then you just type in the Samba, the SMB share path here, and then you just connect to it. And if you're like me and you have a TP-Link router that doesn't have hostname forwarding, you would want to add that path into your host names. So how you do that is new tab, sudo vim etc hosts, enter your password, and then here you can see an example, right? And so then all you have to do is add your IP address and then what you want to call it. So pranav jetson nano. And now if you ping pranav jetson nano, it should work, as you can see. Yeah, and so hopefully that's not too long, but that's how I set up my new Fedora installs, or like new GNOME installs. This can translate a lot to whatever distro or desktop environment you're using. It's kind of like this routine process that you do every time you set up a new computer. It just goes like update drivers, browser, config, and then like additional software. And just going through the settings and making sure you're setting everything up correctly. So yeah, I'll modify the video notes to add the videos here for this stuff. NVIDIA drivers video. And then I'll add the video here, and then, yeah, we have the link to that. Yeah, cool. I hope you found the notes useful. I hope you found this video useful, and I welcome you to your new install of Fedora or Linux or whatever. And I think I've rambled on too much, so I'll see you guys later. Sudo Pluto out.